Happy Friday, YouTube. Help your favorite podcast out by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. If you haven't already, tap that little bell so you get notified every time we go live. Let's talk about the amazing Spencer Strider up next on Kokomo Friday.
Alcantara, Soroka, you look so good in Boca. Peralta, Manoa, bounce back for Aaron Gilito, Castillo, Yoshida, Tacticado, Enfado, value so high, but ADP so low. Frank Clubs, hit some kind of Joe. Now let's get on with the show.
Happy Kokomo Friday and welcome in to Fantasy Baseball today on July 8th. The band is back together. Frank Stampfl joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. Today on the show, the amazing Spencer Strider. Let's check in on some prospects, the Week 15 preview, two-star pitchers, and a whole bunch more. Let's have some fun.
Oh my goodness gracious!
All right, I asked the gents before we started, who wants that Olive Garden breadstick of the night? And Scott so willingly stepped up and said, give me that breadstick.
I am happy to reach for the final breadstick.
And
I forget the analogy. Like, why do we call it the Olive Garden breadstick again?
It's so when there's like one obvious guy, this always happens where we're like, oh, you can take him, and it's like that's what happens at like restaurants when you get free like bread. That's what my friend told me when he was working at the Olive Garden. I'm sorry for putting their trade secrets out there, but they would give you one more piece of bread than there are people at the table. So people are less likely to get extras.
Yeah. But then they weren't planning on me sitting there being like, yoink. Yeah, I am going to take Spencer Strider, the breadstick, who was amazing. Again, his second straight double-digit strikeout effort. Career high 12. You know, he's a rookie, so what does career high mean? But yeah, he struck out 12 against the Cardinals, 23 swinging strikes, gave up only 2 hits, and I know one was one that obviously should have been caught. It just, 3 fielders converging and nobody wanted to take it in the first inning. So he was basically untouchable in this start, as has been the norm for Spencer Strider lately. And I'm not the first person who put it this way. I remember somebody, a couple starts ago on Twitter expressed this idea to me. But it's so true watching him. And I think there's maybe a danger to, analyzing a guy based on what you see, because I don't really think that's within my skill set. And it's liable to create some faulty impressions, just the whole eye test thing. But when I watch Spencer Strider, I get the feeling he's only capable of beating himself by, just being kind of all over the place, not hitting his spots like he's supposed to, chasing strikeouts too much. When that fastball is just like, it seems like he's capable of blowing it by anybody. And like, he knows it too. Like he just has to put it in the right spot and there's nothing they can do with it. The fastball, So I know we were talking just yesterday, Lance Lynn versus Spencer Strider. Who would I take? And I think yesterday I said Lance Lynn. I think I got to move Strider up past Lynn. Somebody was asking me on Twitter today, Lance Lynn or Lucas Giolito. And, part of me is like, well, Lucas Giolito, we've thought of him as this top 15 guy for a few years now. But realistically, if I had Spencer Strider and somebody offered me Lucas Giolito for him, there's no way I'm taking that. So I think I got to move him past Lucas Giolito. In the long run, Strider may end up beating himself. He may, he may just have too many games where he struggles with control or whatever else. He may get hurt. He may have to get shut down at some point because he didn't even reach 100 innings last year. But he's at about 60 now, I believe. And I don't know. I just want to. I just think he's so talented that I don't I don't want to pass him up for anything,
Yeah, I got that same question too, Scott, and I hesitated. Lucas Giolito versus Spencer Strider. I think it's one of those weird rankings quirks where if you have Strider, you're not going to trade him for Giolito, and if you have Giolito, I doubt you're going to be able to get Spencer Strider for him. So it's just kind of a weird situation. I do think that they're both like top 30-ish starting pitchers right now. Anyway, the innings concern. So right now, Strider is at 65.2 innings pitched, 102 strikeouts, by the way, nearly 14K per nine. The guy is absolutely ridiculous. Did a little bit of math. So last year, 96 and a third total innings for Spencer Strider. I mentioned what he's done already. Let's say he makes 15 starts the rest of the season. That would be like, normal 5-man rotation rest of season, averaging 5.5 innings per start. That would put him at 88 innings rest of season, plus 65 and 2/3, 153 and 2/3. Last year was 96. Chris, do you think that this is a fair jump? Something that you could see Spencer Strider doing rest of season? That would be, about a 60 inning jump year over year.
Yeah, I would want to look at like what the Braves have done in some other similar situations. Like Ian Anderson is someone who comes to mind just because he came up during that 2020 season. I'm not sure what the leaps for him were, but I don't know. It seems in the right ballpark. A 50 to 60 inning jump like that. That doesn't seem to raise too many alarm bells. So I think that's okay. Yeah, I'm looking at like Ian Anderson from 2020 to 2021 was a 120 inning jump, but obviously that was coming off the shortened season.
Yeah.
It was about,
Well,
it was right in line with his career high. So that's where it does change for Strider because Strider doesn't have, that 140 inning career high.
Right. He only got one minor league season.
Yeah.
So before that, just, the college workload isn't very much.
Yeah, so
and
I think
you have to consider also that I imagine the Braves are going to be anticipating a playoff run, a deep playoff run, and they'll want to have some innings in the tank for that. So I do think it's likely maybe they slow down Strider at some point. Maybe they insert Kyle Muller as a sixth starter at some point and go with that for a while. But even so, Strider somebody. I'm having a hard time picturing taking out of my lineup for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, the one caveat I would say is like this recent stretch isn't that dissimilar from Kyle Wright's early season stretch. I think Strider's been a little better for a little longer than Kyle Wright was at his best, but Kyle Wright has then settled in as a pretty good, I would say very good starting pitcher, but not this like incredible world beater like he looked earlier. And I think there's a difference in the pure stuff. Like Scott said, Spencer Strider, you watch him and he's so overwhelmingly dominant that it's hard to imagine how things go south. But it's also worth reminding yourself that he's a 2-pitch pitcher. I mean, almost exclusively. He throws the changeup. He threw 8 of them today. I would imagine that's pretty close to a season high for him. He really he pitches like a closer. Like I saw somebody compare him to like Edwin Diaz. And that is just a profile that you don't see very often out of starting pitchers, especially right-handed starting pitchers. You just don't see a lot of fastball slider guys. And so far there have been 0 split issues. Spencer Strider has been arguably even more dominant against lefties than he has righties. I think he's got entering this start, he had 45 strikeouts to 5 walks against left-handed batters or something ridiculous like that. So that hasn't become an issue yet. But as we're often talking about with young players, you want to see what the adjustment to the adjustment looks like and all that. So we'll see what it looks like. But yeah, he was 36 when I updated my rankings this morning or this afternoon. And looking at it, it didn't seem right to have him behind Kyle Wright or Sean Manaea or Framber Valdez or Yu Darvish. So I moved him up to 28, which is not far from where Lucas Giolito is at this point.
Yeah, I think that's all fair. And I do have one comp for him, Chris, another starting pitcher who relies so heavily on fastball slider, actually another mustachioed fella, Dylan Cease. I think that they're very, very similar pitchers at this point. In fact, Slider actually walks less batters per 9 than Cease does. So could potentially even be better Dylan
Yeah.
Cease.
Cease
No, I
has
think
been
Strider
pretty
naturally.
ridiculous himself lately. You know, he's on a Strider-esque run, and he's got 4 pitches. You know, he doesn't use the curveball and changeup as often, but
Strider
he's
has a
4-pitch
changeup.
pitcher.
He threw 8 changeups today, so
Yeah.
he does technically have a third pitch. He just rarely needs it.
Yeah.
I think is the main thing, and I do think he naturally has better control than Cease. He just sometimes falls in love with the strikeouts and issues walks for that reason. Yeah, so since you brought up Cease, I wanted to mention this for him. So he had a good start against the Tigers, 1 earned run, 3 hits, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts. His last 8 starts now, Dylan Cease has a .60 ERA and 8 starts, but with a 1.15 WHIP and 10 unearned runs during that 8-start stretch. That kind of undermines that .60 ERA. So
Yeah, he had one.
he's
really
a top
bad,
20 pitcher.
He had one really bad start. If you look at it, it was 6 unearned runs, and then the previous start he had 7 walks. Outside of that, he's been pretty flawless.
Yeah, I mean he's a
last,
top
month
20
and a half,
pitcher, but there are some kind of misleading numbers in there as well.
Sure.
All right, let's move on from Spencer Strider and talk about another Braves player, Chris. Oh my goodness gracious for you.
Yeah, Scott's feeling too good about his team after Spencer Strider discussion. So we got to knock him down a peg and talk about Ronald Acuña, whose OPS has fallen below 800, 793. He went 0 for 5 with a strikeout today. Did score a run, so presumably got on base at some point. But we did get an email today that just kind of caught my eye from email from listener named Clint. Just here to say I shouldn't be able to tell Acuña is off weeks ahead of you guys. Maybe tomorrow you'll talk about how bad he's been relative to his career norms. A couple other things that, taking some shots at us. That's fine. But that's how I noticed it. But yeah, Acuña, I don't know, he's off, I guess, in a way that would make sense. He's coming back from a torn ACL, and he's 50 games in now. Officially, I think today was his 50th game this season, and it would make sense that he's not 100% right, except I don't know if that explanation actually holds any water. He's on pace for more steals than we've ever seen from him. He's on a 45 stolen base pace over 150 games, which would be a career high by 8, and that came in 156 games. Obviously, paces are, they're not necessarily, proof of anything, but he's also, his quality of contact metrics aren't quite as good as they were in 2020 and 2021, but that's because he's gone from, the 7th best hitter in baseball, according to the quality of contact metrics, to, I don't know, the 28th or something. He's still 82nd percentile in average exit velocity, 83rd in hard hit rate, 98th in max exit velocity,
91st in X slug.
X slug 91st, 86th in XBA, 95th in XWOBA. He's not hitting the ball in the air as much, and he's not hitting the ball to the pull side as much. Those are the two things. If you want to look at the strikeout rate's identical, most of the underlying plate discipline numbers are identical. If you're looking for an explanation for why Ronald Acuña hasn't been as good this season, it's 1, his pull rate is down to 41% from 48% last season, and his ground ball rate is up to 46% from 32% last season. Now, that's not nothing, and that would help explain why Ronald Acuña only has 7 home runs and is only on a 21 homer pace. But it's also the kind of thing that just happens sometimes. And we went over this in the 2020 season that was only 60 games. Ronald Acuña is right around that threshold where the fluctuations that happen from a player, even the underlying skill fluctuations, don't necessarily mean anything. And I know we've gone over this with Juan Soto in recent weeks, and I feel like our listeners often want us to tell them when their superstar player is disappointing that there's a reason for it. That I think it makes you feel better about man, why has Juan Soto been so bad? Why has Ronald Acuña underperformed? And having a reason for it might make you feel better about it. But I kind of just think Ronald Acuña is just a teeny tiny bit off, and he's about to get he's probably going to get really, really hot soon and look like one of the best players in baseball for an extended stretch. Possibly Would anyone be surprised if he was just the number one player in fantasy the rest of the season? There's no part of me that would be even a little bit shocked if Ronald Acuña was the best player in fantasy from this point on.
Well, at least in roto scoring, I expect him to be.
Yeah, he's a top 5 player in both formats because he walks a bunch now and he doesn't really strike out that much. So it's just, I get being frustrated. You see, Juan Soto hitting 230 or whatever it is. You see Ronald Acuña with an OPS below 800. This isn't what you signed up for. Better days are ahead. And that is a promise. That's a fantasy baseball today guarantee.
Can't wait till we get an email from that guy in like a month when Ronald Acuña still only has 10 home runs or whatever it is at that point. Anyway, I think it's all related to the ground ball rate, Chris. You brought it up. I mean, a 15 percentage point increase from one year to the next in ground ball rate, that is going to change your power output a massive amount. And even with that, you mentioned this was his 50th game. He's still on pace, 272 batting average, 21 home runs, 51 steals.
The RBI has been bad. The RBI and home runs have been he's on like a 60 RBI, 20 homer pace. That's bad. I can't there's no sugarcoating that. He's been disappointing, but I just don't think it matters that much. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And honestly, I understand why people send emails in like this. Again, I think it's kind of a therapy session, Chris, which you've kind of referred to it as. But honestly, we don't bring it up because there's nothing we can do to change it at this point, right? Like, we're not going to tell you to trade Ronald Acuña. Like, it doesn't make sense unless you're getting, I don't know, multiple amazing pieces, like multiple top 10 players. It doesn't make sense.
Ground ball rate point, it's 50 games. He had a 50 game stretch towards the end of the 2019 season when he had a 46% ground ball rate. So those things happen. We think of these underlying skills as skills, and they are to a certain extent, but they're the result of skills, and those things can change. And so I promise you, Ronald Acuña, you're not going to be I don't know. I can't promise. There's no guarantees in life. If Ronald Acuña stays healthy, I think there's a very, very small chance that you will be disappointed in him rest of the season.
All right, we're going to skip my oh my goodness gracious player and get to him in just a little bit because we have spent 17 minutes talking about 2 Atlanta Braves players. So let's check in on some prospects, guys that maybe we haven't talked about enough recently, and just kind of see what they're doing lately. Adley Rutschman. He went 1 for 4, hit his 4th home run of the season, his first in Camden Yards. Last 22 games, he's hitting 259, 4 homers, 10 doubles, 14 runs, 11 RBI, 1 steal, making a lot of contact, doing a bit of everything, and especially in points leagues. I mean, if this is a preview of what's to come for Adley Rutschman the next couple of years, really strong plate discipline, not striking out, and even though he's not hitting as many home runs maybe as we're expecting, a lot of doubles. And I think, usually for a prospect, we expect those doubles to turn into home runs over time. Scott, what have you seen from Adley Rutschman, the past 3-4 weeks or so? Because looks like he's getting back on track.
Yeah, I mean, if that's who he is rest of season, then I don't think anybody has any reason to be disappointed. I think I have him 7th in my rest of season rankings at catcher, 6th maybe. And those numbers would get him there. Obviously it's a low bar to meet at that position. And with catchers especially, you don't expect them to perform up to their potential right away because they're not able to work on their hitting as much as players at other positions are because the defensive demands are so high. And I think it's pretty typical for them
playing every day. He's 6th among catchers in plate appearances since he got called up. He's not getting much time off. So what he's doing, the degree of difficulty for Adley Rutschman is incredibly high. And I think it's important to keep that in mind as well, because being a catcher at the major league level is just incredibly difficult. And his numbers are comparable to Dalton Varsho or Christian Vasquez, who I know that's not a big name, but guys who, I don't think there's a lot of concern about them being starters moving forward. So this is the first 37 games of his career. I'm very excited about Adley Rutschman.
I am here to tell you that you should be buying Vinny Pasquantino, despite him going 4 for 30 so far and batting 133. He only has 1 homer, 6 walks to 6 strikeouts. Plate discipline has been there. Very patient approach. His exit velocity, 94.9 miles per hour early on. The max EV, nearly 113 miles per hour. 313 expected batting average. Still only 65% rostered. Chris, if you need a first baseman or corner infielder, utility bat, whatever it might be, even in shallow leagues, I would say add Vinny Pasquantino. And if anyone in your league is on the verge of dropping him, just send some kind of buy low offer, because I think much better days are coming.
I'm not Chris, but he's only 65% rostered.
Yeah.
So like a lot of leagues, he's just there for the taking still. And he's my number 1 sleeper hitter for this upcoming week. And yeah, I think we're going to see him do some serious damage very soon. Like, to put it into context, you said 94.9 miles per hour on the average exit velocity. That would be like 2 hitters who rank ahead of him if he's able to sustain that exit velocity. And with that strikeout rate, it's kind of ridiculous. He hasn't gotten more hits yet.
One thing I will point out, I agree with everything you guys said. I think he's worth adding everywhere that he's available. If someone's looking to trade him low, I'd buy. The profile that he does have could lend itself to him underperforming, relatively gaudy looking expected stats, because he's incredibly slow, 4th percentile in sprint speed so far. That's what we expected. And he's incredibly pull heavy. Again, that's also what we expected. And those are reasons to, the pull profile is a reason to think that he'll be a pretty solid power hitter. But slow guys who are easily shiftable, especially left-handed hitters, can tend to underperform their expected stats, because they'll just get a lot of would-be hits taken away by the shift or by, just being slow. So that's the only thing I would point out is, like, Pasquantino, you should probably bookmark in your head, like, okay, I probably need to discount whatever his expected stats are.
It's a good
At least
point.
a little bit.
Let's do a little Pasquantino or this player. You guys could both answer. Pasquantino or Alex Kirilloff?
Vinny. And I love Kirilloff.
Ooh.
Let me see. I have Kirilloff ranked ahead.
Pasquantino or Nate Lowe?
Vinny.
Pasquantino.
Pasquantino or Andrew Vaughn?
I think I have Vaughn ahead.
I think I do too, but I don't know.
Kind of similar profiles.
Vaughn is. I struggle with Vaughn. I struggle with what my true feelings for Vaughn are.
Yeah, the reason I ask, Scott, I saw you move Vaughn all the way up to 12th in your first base rank, so it's pretty aggressive. He's been a good player, but the problem has been a lack of power for him. So I think he's almost been a better real life hitter than fantasy hitter, if that makes sense for Andrew Vaughn.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's underperformed what he'll be as a power hitter in the long run. That that obviously is factoring into the way I rank him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one, but I'll say Vaughn because that's what my rankings show.
All right, let's move on to an outfielder. Oh gosh, another Atlanta Brave. Seriously, Michael Harris. He went 1 for 4 with his 6th home run, 79% rostered. Could be out there in some shallower leagues. So far, I mean, he looks like a stud. He got called up from AA, and all he has done is hit and run and hit and run. 292 batting average, 6 homers, 6 steals. The max EV nearly 113 miles per hour. I will say the ground ball rate is a little bit high at 55%, but the expected numbers all kind of line up with his actual numbers. He does not walk much early on. That's something I've noticed for Michael Harris, but performing well against lefties. I know it's way too early to talk about next year, but I could just see like Michael Harris is going to be like one of the darlings of fantasy if he keeps this up. And I don't really have any reason to believe that he won't. So, Scott, another Atlanta Brave. What do you think about your boy, Michael Harris?
I wish he walked more. I wish the average exit velocity was a little higher, but there's not much to complain about beyond that. He's running more than I expected him to. The power has translated to home runs quicker than I thought it would. And, the hit tool, I think, was probably the most refined of them when he got the call and hasn't disappointed in that regard. And he's great as a defender in center field. So, that's going to ensure he continues to play every day, even if maybe his numbers fall off a little against left-handed pitchers.
He is incredibly aggressive. He has the 8th highest outside of zone swing rate in baseball at 45%. So that's the one thing, the plate discipline. Like, he's an aggressive swinger in general, 56% swing rate. But you look at the guys who have high swing rates outside of the strike zone compared to him, and it's like Tim Anderson, who swings at pitches inside of the strike zone at 78%, and Avisail Garcia, who's at 86% on pitches inside of the strike zone, and Ozzy Albies at 84%. Michael Harris is at 74% on in the strike zone. So that tells me the pitch recognition is pretty lacking. So, he's making enough contact that it's not a concern right now, but I could see that being something that catches up to him if you wanted to look for a red flag, just because it's kind of the only thing. Like, plate discipline is kind of the only thing he's not doing extremely well right now.
And his swinging strike rate is a little bit high, 14.6% compared to just a 22% strikeout rate. So maybe we do see that kind of reflect a little bit more, and more strikeouts kind of show up for Michael Harris. So it's a good point. But, man, outside of that, power speed combination, fantastic fielder early on. Really like what we've got from Michael Harris. How about O'Neal Cruz? His first 17 games, he's batting .203. He's got 3 homers, 2 steals, 22 strikeouts to just 2 walks. That is a 33% strikeout rate. Hitting the ball extremely hard, which we expected for O'Neal Cruz. Chris, it's kind of been a mixed bag here. What are your early takeaways from Cruz?
Yeah, he's kind of the opposite of Harris. He's been weirdly passive. He doesn't swing at pitches inside of the strike zone. His chase rate's only 36%. His zone swing rate is only 55%. That's incredibly low. That's like Alex Bregman, or if you want a bad comp, Kevin Biggio level lows. Now he's got 80 grade, 75 grade raw power, and he's putting into play in games. But I think there's, that's the one thing that stands out, is that he's actually not swinging and missing like a whole lot as much as he is swinging at the wrong pitches early on. But strikeout rate actually wasn't as big of a concern for him in the minors as you would think, given his size. So I'm optimistic that he can improve.
All right, I'm assuming we're still holding O'Neal Cruz and
100% must roster player.
Must roster, but I wouldn't say must start.
Yeah.
While those others, maybe in the 3 outfielder points league, you're not necessarily starting Michael Harris, but he's pretty widely started and should be.
This last one is not really a prospect, but he is a rookie, and he's playing very well. Derek Hall with the Phillies went 2 for 4, hit his 4th home run, added 2 RBI, striking out quite a bit early on, does not have a single walk through his first, I believe it's 7 or 8 games. 25% rostered, widely available. Next week, he's got 6 games with 2 lefties on the schedule, so we'll see how he fares against those lefties. But, Scott, where, if anywhere, should we be looking to add Derek Hall?
So I think in the long run, it's going to play out similarly to Jake Sawinski, where, yes, he does have power, but is he a well-rounded enough hitter to really take advantage of it in a way that we care about in fantasy? And I'm very skeptical of that. I mean, he's a 26-year-old non-prospect who was hitting a lot of home runs in the minors prior to this call-up, and at least his first go around the league, that's continued. But as anything more than a short-term play, and it's not like the Phillies have great matchups this upcoming week, I'm pretty skeptical of Derek Hall still.
All right, let's move into a few other waiver wire hitters before we hit the break. Christopher Morel, we talk about him a lot. He's only 70% rostered, so I feel like that number should be closer to universally rostered at this point. He hit his 9th home run of the season on Thursday, came off of Tony Gonsolin. He is batting .274, 9 homers, 7 steals, and .849 OPS in his first 47 games. That's about as impressive as it can go for an unheralded prospect. He was a prospect on some lists, but it's not like he was one of the top prospects in the game. So Christopher Morel has been great. He's got second base, outfield eligibility. If you need either of those positions, you need to roster him, even in points leagues. We spoke about these 2 yesterday. Andrew Benintendi, 2 more hits. He has multiple hits in 8 of his last 10 games, 73% rostered. Probably better for points leagues at this point. Jonathan VR, back-to-back multi-hit games, has led off 4 straight for the Angels. So in deeper leagues, just a name to watch. Maybe you need a middle infielder with some speed. If you need a second catcher, who do you like more between these two? Carson Kelly went 2 for 3, hit his 3rd home run, and over his last 7 games, he's batting .318 with 3 home runs. All 3 of his home runs in the season have come in the last 7 games. And Cal Raleigh, 2 more hits, including his 11th home run, 114 miles per hour off the bat. A legit frozen rope. It went 19 degrees launch angle. Like it would just, boom, it just went out in a hurry. He's 24% rostered. Chris, if you need a second catcher, who do you like more? Carson Kelly, Cal Raleigh?
As someone who follows me on Twitter said in my mentions, hashtag Kyle Raleigh, which is how I tend to say Kyle Raleigh.
Yeah, say his name as if you weren't trying to say Kyle.
Kyle Raleigh. Yeah.
Yeah, it does kind of sound like
I don't know. I get like a little bit of like a twang when I say those specific sounds. I don't know what it is.
Cal Raleigh.
Kyle Raleigh.
But you would take him over Carson Kelly.
Yes.
Same for you, Scott?
Well, I don't know. I kind of don't care that much, really. Whoever's hotter, I'd be willing to just ride them for a while. I think we've certainly seen more from Kelly at the major league level overall. He's been pretty horrible this year. Missed a lot of time with injuries. But I think if you're telling me I have to pick up one guy and stick with him, I would probably choose Kelly.
All right, fair enough. Last one I wanted to mention here, Daniel Vogelbach, one of Scott's favorites. Heating back up. He went 3 for 4 with a double and an RBI. His last 11 games, he's hitting .419, 3 homers, and more walks and strikeouts. 7 walks to 5 strikeouts. He's 9% rostered. You don't want to add him in shallow leagues, but Scott, in deeper leagues, he's got 7 games next week, including 3 in Coors Field. Kind of like
certified big beefy baseball boy.
He hit a home run off the Yankees the other day, and just watching Daniel Vogelbach round the bases,
he might be the platonic. Like I think Justin Bohr is the king of the big beefy baseball boys, but Daniel Vogelbach might be the platonic ideal.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, it's gotta be Vogie, man. Like that, he is just the perfect description there.
Yeah,
Scott, do you have any interest in Vogelbach in deeper leagues if you need a corner for next week?
I mean, it depends how deep the league is. I didn't strongly consider him for my top 10 sleeper hitters for next week because there are 4 lefties on the schedule. Dang. And he's batting 137 against lefties.
That's not great.
Yeah.
So, all right. That's a good point and one that I hadn't realized. You know, I see Coors on the schedule and I just get so excited. Before we hit the break, Fantasy Baseball Today is a nominee for the Best Sports Podcast category in the People's Choice Podcast Awards. Thanks for all that you do for us, and we hope that you'll nominate us to advance to the final round. To do so, go to podcastawards.com/app/signup and then toggle down the sports category. The whole process takes less than a minute. I did it yesterday before the podcast. Quick, easy, painless. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you'll see that we have a new QR code in the top right of the screen, right next to Scotty's face. So pull out that phone, scan the QR code, open up your camera. That'll take you right to the website. And again, drop down the sports category and you can nominate us there. We've also included the link at the top of the podcast description and on YouTube as well. If you want to hear about prospects this Saturday, listen to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. It's our 5-minute podcast. Download and follow wherever you listen to this podcast. We'll take a break and we'll return right after this. The news and notes. Kevin Gausman threw off flat ground on Thursday and is scheduled for a bullpen on Friday to determine when he will make his next start, dealing with that ankle injury. Tyler O'Neill could be reinstated from the IL on Friday against the Phillies. Jazz Chisholm is scheduled to play in a game at the rookie level Florida Complex League on Saturday. He's been on the IL with a back injury. Bobby Witt Jr. has missed 2 straight after getting hit by a pitch on his right. Actually, I don't know what hand it is. I don't know why I just assumed it was right, but on one of his hands on Tuesday. Chris Sale, this is fun, will likely be activated to make his season debut on Tuesday. The Red Sox left open the possibility of another rehab start, but they're leaning towards calling him up back to the big leagues. And hopefully he pitches well, or else he'll destroy their entire clubhouse, which, you know, if you saw the video that's going around on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you like to frequent, Chris Sale caught like destroying stuff, trying to rip something off the wall in the clubhouse. He walked 5 batters.
Well, I think he took a bat to a TV, and it was, I think it was Chris Cotillo who, Chris Cotillo, I retweeted the article. I hope he's the one who actually wrote it, but the quotes in it from Sale were priceless, because he kind of like went over the rules for throwing a tantrum. Like, he learned when he was young not to use his fists, and like he kind of had some older players teach him the right way to do it. And he was saying, I know that wouldn't fly at Bank of America, but this isn't Bank of America. And it's just like, you see it and you see the tantrum and you're like, oh, that's not a good look, Chris Sale. But then like the comments are just so fun. Like he owns it. Like he knows he has a lot of self-awareness.
He knows it makes him look like a big baby. Like that's what he said, is like, it's a 7-year-old's tantrum.
And so it's hard not to come out liking him over that. He replaced the TV and everything, you know.
It does just, I'm always here for any time that we're reminded of Chris Sale being a weirdo, because it brings up my favorite sports story maybe ever, when Chris Sale like threw a tantrum because they wouldn't let Adam LaRoche's son stay in the dugout or in the locker room. Which just like one of my favorite things that's ever happened in sports. Adam Eaton called a 14-year-old a leader in their clubhouse. It's just unbelievable stuff.
Oh man,
Chris Sale hung up his jersey, a 14-year-old kid's jersey, in his locker, in tribute. It was amazing.
Look, I'm all for
what a weirdo.
Passion and fire while playing sports and stuff. But man, Chris Sale, you know, he takes it a little bit further. I can't really complain too much.
He's just a weird dude.
Yankees, Paul O'Neill, you know, the guy was also like a maniac back in the 90s. So can't really say too much on that. But yeah, hopefully we see Chris Sale back soon. Even with Sale returning, Brian Bayo will make another start on Monday against the Tampa Bay Rays. Aaron Judge was out of the lineup Thursday due to lower body soreness. They said it's just kind of general soreness this time of year, middle part of the season. Jeremy Pena was scratched due to health and safety protocols. Apparently, he's traveling with the Astros for their weekend series. I believe they're headed out to Oakland. Marcus Stroman is expected to be activated and started this weekend against the Dodgers. He's 58% roster. Do we have any interest in Marcus Stroman?
I think that's probably a pretty appropriate roster rate for now. We'll see what he looks like, but I don't know. You're often not missing out on much.
Fair enough. Yeah, he was not great early in the season, so especially against the Dodgers, that's, you don't want to start him as first start back, that's for sure. Rowanzi Contreras, this was interesting. He pitched one of the best games of the season, 6 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts, and then he was optioned after. Apparently, the team had planned a shutdown period for Contreras. The plan is for him to return slightly after the All-Star break or something like that. Yeah. We were talking beforehand, and you guys said this is pretty normal, right? So,
yeah, this won't be the last young pitcher we see this happen to in this week leading up to the All-Star break, because obviously the All-Star break gives these teams a chance to reset the rotation, so they can, you know, they can go the length of time necessary before bringing the player back and him not really miss a turn. They just kind of rearrange the rotation, get an extra player on the roster in the meantime. It's a little bit of roster chicanery, but it's pretty normal. I don't think we should treat it as a true demotion for Rowanzi Contreras. It does,
they're
however,
keeping him
mean
on the taxi squad, so he's with the team. He's not like going to Indianapolis or whatever.
It does mean he misses out on a 2-start week next week, so that's a little disappointing. But one of those starts is going to be at Colorado.
Yeah, so you probably didn't want to use him there anyway. Jurickson Profar was carted off the field after colliding with teammate C.J. Abrams, and Profar took a knee right to the jaw. It was pretty scary stuff. So he tried to walk off multiple times and then just dropped down. So hoping everything's all right with him. Mitch Haniger could return by the end of July. He's missed a couple of months with that ankle sprain. We have a bunch of Red Sox rehab assignments starting up. Nathan Eovaldi pitched on Thursday. Garrett Whitlock will pitch Friday. And Enrique Hernandez will start his rehab assignment on Friday as well. Jesus Luzardo will throw a bullpen session Friday. He's been on the IL for nearly 2 months with that forearm strain. Michael Lorenzen placed on the IL with a right shoulder strain retroactive to July 4th. And Mike Soroka was hit in the knee by a comebacker while pitching live batting practice. and does not have a target date for a rehab assignment. Let's move into week 15, and we'll start with the schedule, which is all over the place. We've got 3 teams with 5 games, the Orioles, the Angels, and the Dodgers. 12 teams with 6 games, 11 teams with 7, and we have 4 teams with 8 games next week, the Tigers, the Royals, the White Sox, and the Guardians. As I mentioned earlier, the Rockies are at home. They've got 7 home games, 4 against the Padres, and 3 against the Pirates, in case you want to target any of those hitters. Starters sit these fringy 2-start pitchers for next week. We will start with Chris Sale. If he is planning to start on Tuesday, that would set him up at the Rays and at the Yankees. Scott, what do you do with Chris Sale?
Probably start him. I have him just outside of the must-start tier in my 2-start pitcher rankings. So, if it's a shallow league, if you have an especially deep pitching staff, maybe you'll choose to play it safe. But I don't think most people have that luxury.
Sean Manaea has not pitched that well as of late, and next week he's at Coors Field against the Rockies and home against the Diamondbacks. Chris, what do you think about Sean Manaea?
I think I would still start him. The Rocky at Coors is bad, but it's not like a death trap, and versus Arizona is nice. So I think I'd still start him.
Alex Cobb has also not pitched very well this entire season. Unfortunately, we thought it would go much better than this. He is up against the Diamondbacks and the Brewers. Scott, what do you think about Cobb?
He's in the no thanks section of the 2-start pitcher rankings. I did consider him for my 10 sleeper pitchers because it's hard to come up with 10 sleeper pitchers right now. But realistically, I don't want to start Cobb.
All right, his peripherals are still so good.
Yeah.
He's got a 2.71 xERA. His quality of contact this year is actually really good.
Well,
I don't understand.
Would you start
him? I'm gonna start him. I'm gonna run him out there in Towel Wars, and I'm gonna feel stupid about him.
Well, it could be fortune favors the bold pick.
That's coming just a little bit later on.
Of course, he's 70% rostered, so.
Yeah, all right. So he's right on that fringe. Graham Ashcraft is at the Yankees and at the Cardinals. Chris, what do you think?
I think I'd probably stay away.
Brian Bayo at the Rays and at the Yankees, facing the Rays two turns in a row, his first 2 starts. Scott, what do you think?
No. I mean, he may not make that second start depending on how the first goes. So that's all the more reason to stay away.
Fair enough. Josh Winder is filling in the Twins rotation. He's going up against the Brewers and White Sox. Chris, Josh Winder.
I pass.
Pass. All right. Mitch Keller, our favorite. I should have lined it up so that Chris got Mitch Keller. I always just like asking you about Mitch Keller, Chris. He's at the Marlins. One good start. At Coors Field. Gross. Scott?
I mean, you could ask him anyway. My feelings won't be hurt.
All right, Chris.
I mean, the nice thing about Mitch Keller is he's going to have a good start against the Marlins because it's a great matchup, and Mitch Keller never disappoints. No, I wouldn't start him. Even in a points league, he doesn't go deep into games, even when he's pitching well. No, let's just give up on this. Let's stop trying to make Mitch Keller happen.
All right. Yep. He's not fetch. Stop trying to make it a thing. Trevor Rogers going up against the Pirates and the Phillies. Scott, I just got to ask, courtesy, Trevor Rogers.
No.
Right.
As I mentioned yesterday, he's outside my top 100 starting pitchers rest of season.
I think that's a little much.
It's hard to blame you. I think his ERA is over 5. I think his WHIP is over 1.5. It's been a rough one.
100 is not as low as it sounds at that position. I will in my defense. So let me see if I can pull it up quickly enough. Let me see some guys I have just ahead of him. So I have him behind Zach Eflin, Zach Plesac, Lance McCullers, who's about to go on a rehab assignment, Cal Quantrill, Marco Gonzalez.
Come on, he's better than those guys.
Well, I would start all of those
You'd
guys over him.
You'd rather have
right
him
now
on your roster than Cal Quantrill.
I mean, it depends how deep a league you're talking about, but
what depth of league is Kyle Quantrill more valuable? Come on.
Well, he's more rostered on CBS than Trevor Rogers.
Trevor Rogers was legitimately one of the 10 best pitchers in baseball at this time last year. So I get it, he's been bad. I'm not making excuses for him, but the upside, like maybe you'd rather start Cal Quantrill than Trevor Rogers now. I think that might be the fourth different way I've pronounced Cal Quantrill's name. But like
in a dynasty league, I
come
will take Trevor Rogers over Cal Quantrill, sure.
Come
But I don't
on.
have any faith in Rogers finding it anytime soon. So, I just kind of I don't want to overrank him, that's for sure.
All right, 2-star pitchers to add and stream for next week. Scott, who do we have?
Okay, would you ask me about 2-star pitchers or 1-star pitchers?
2-star pitchers.
2-star pitchers. So, yeah, as I mentioned, it's hard. It's getting hard to find 10 sleeper pitchers, and rather than force a couple guys on there, like a Graham Ashcraft or Brian Bayo, who I don't actually want anybody starting, I just decided to change the rules. When you're losing the game, change the rules. And so I've upped the sleeper threshold to 85% rostered, which allows me to put Josiah Gray on this list. He gets the Mariners and the Braves. Frankly, with the way he's pitched recently, I'm not sure there are matchups that could keep me away from him. Josiah Gray in his past 6 starts, a 2.78 ERA, 107 WHIP, 11.4 K per 9. Jeffrey Springs is on here again, because why not? I mean, that's part of the reason I raised the threshold too, because I can't put Jeffrey Springs at the top of the list every week. And he's been a little less reliable lately, but of course, he had missed a turn prior to his last start. It stood to reason he'd be rusty. He's still getting a lot of whiffs. So I think, one of his 2 starts is against Baltimore. I still think that's a pretty good play. Let's see. Merrill Kelly gets the Giants and Padres. Not great matchups, but he's kind of the quintessential streamer pitcher and very likely going to come away with at least 1 quality start, maybe even 2. David Peterson is on here. He gets the Braves and the Cubs. The Braves matchup is a little scary, of course, but the Braves are actually second in baseball in strikeouts, and Peterson has done a good job missing bats lately. The Cubs strike out a lot too, so that could turn out okay. Chris Flexen gets the Nationals and Rangers, are pretty good matchups, and he's been, pretty steady lately. Don't have a lot of faith in him, but we're at 8th now in my sleeper pitchers list. And I do actually have Josh Winder rounding out the list. He's 16% rostered. So, if you play in a big league and you're looking to stream somebody off waivers, it's very likely he's available. But not a ton of confidence in him.
All right. If you listen to Matt Damon, then you know that fortune favors the brave. It also means you probably lost all your money to crypto. But alas, if you need a 2-star pitcher that you are just so desperate for, even though you know that pitcher is terrible and you should not do this, but you're feeling brave, then you should use Trevor Rogers next week. That is my fortune favors the brave pick, and I will be starting him in the Scott White Dynasty League because it is a 24-team league, and frankly, I just don't have any pitchers left. So I will start Trevor
just
Rogers.
barely. Scott just barely thinks he's worth starting in a 24-team league.
You're not wrong.
You got
about
120 starting pitchers. That's just under the threshold.
He's going up against the Pirates and the Phillies, whatever. Not that the matchups matter. Like, we all know Trevor Rogers is bad, but I'm going to be brave and say to start him. Chris, who is your fortune favors the brave 2-starter for next week?
I kind of want to say Brian Bayo. I just wish the matchups were better because I know the first start wasn't good, but his stuff is so electric, and even in that start, it looked really good. That it does kind of seem like he was nervous in his major league debut kind of thing, and he could come out and just absolutely dominate. I'm still very excited about him.
Scott, there's one other pitcher here that is just screaming at me. Fortune favors the brave. Will you select?
Is it 1-800 Glenn Otto?
That wasn't
Glenn
the one,
Otto.
but that's pretty good too.
Okay.
It's got Oakland.
And Seattle, 2 bottom 6 offenses.
I think I saw in his last 4 or 5 starts, he has more walks than strikeouts. So that seems pretty bad for our guy 1-800 Glenn Otto. But I think Mitch Keller, 2 starts with one of those in Coors Field, that is just you have to be the bravest fantasy player to throw him in your lineup. If you are, you can use him. Single start streamers for next week. Scott, does this get any better?
No. Not really.
All right.
Because I changed the rules, I'm also able to get John Gray in there. So I got Josiah and John back to back at the top of my sleeper pitchers. he gets Oakland, that AAA lineup. Jose Urquidy also gets Oakland. Zach Plesac, who's on a quality start streak, he gets the Tigers, worst offensive baseball. And I managed to, I went ahead and put Nick Lodolo in here, even though he's facing the Cardinals, a very good offense. You know, he looked great against the Mets, another good offense. So just hoping his stuff comes through again. But he's only 9th among my 10 sleeper pitchers here, so not a ton of confidence in that pick. And it looks like Frank is
up this
frozen.
All right.
That's okay.
Since it says ask Chris for streamers and deeper leagues, I'm just going to take over here. And
okay.
Do we want to leave Frank blinking on the screen or not? All right, some deep streamers to consider. And I'll just go through the ones that I think are potentially worth using. I think Nick Lodolo's 100% on there. Marco Gonzalez, I mean, we've been skeptical. We remain skeptical. But at Washington, I think you probably can justify using Marco Gonzalez. I'm a little surprised he didn't make it in your sleeper pitchers there, Scott.
Yeah,
and
he could have.
Mitch White's been interesting. You know, St. Louis isn't the best matchup possible, but he's been interesting in the Dodgers rotation. And I don't think much of Jake Odorizzi, but I think he's probably like a league average pitcher. And I think a league average pitcher against Oakland can get pretty good results. So I think Marco Gonzalez, Mitch White, and Jake Odorizzi are the 3 that I would consider in deeper leagues.
So Marco Gonzalez, he had another start here on Thursday and came through again. 2 earned runs in 6 2/3 innings, 8 hits, 0 strikeouts. And so Marco Gonzalez now has 7 quality starts in his past 8 opportunities. 4 of those 7 quality starts, he has struck out 2 or fewer. That is, I don't know how he's doing it. I mean, that's kind of the story of his whole career. The strikeouts aren't normally this bad, but don't know how he's doing it. And, you know, I think you're playing with fire there, even against Washington. I know beggars can't be choosers here with the sleeper pitcher picks. And I've got other streaking pitchers who I don't necessarily trust, like Zach Plesac and Jose Urquidy on here. But, you know, at least they're getting somewhere in the vicinity of 7 Ks per nine.
For what it's worth, I think Marco Gonzalez might be better than Zach Plesac.
Oh, man.
Zach Plesac's expected stats are atrocious. He's got like a 5.8 expected ERA. It's really, really rough.
Yeah.
Am I here? Do you guys see me? Do you guys
You're here?
You're here.
Okay,
You're
cool.
back.
I
were
had to
gone
make
for
sure.
a while.
I never sent that angry email or made that phone call to my internet provider. So maybe that'll be a fun Friday for me. Let's wrap up with some hitters here. The best hitter matchups next week: White Sox, the Royals, the Padres, the Tigers, and the Guardians. The worst hitter matchups: the Angels, the Nationals, the Twins, the Brewers, and the Reds. Scott, bring us home. Sleeper hitters for next week.
Real quick, I just wanted to say the Rockies and Pirates could have also been among those 5 teams with the best hitter matchups. I had to get all 4 teams with 8 games in there. So that kind of bumped out some that have really good matchups. And Rockies are at home all week, so that's always a good thing for them. All right, so some hitters to target this week. Not as much of a stretch as the pitchers. Vinny Pasquantino, we already talked about. Royals are among those teams with 8 games, 4 against the Tigers. And we love the data for him, even though the production hasn't been there yet. Riley Green, another recent call-up who's exhibited very good plate discipline. Tigers have the 4th best matchups, also 8 games. They get the Royals for the first 4 of those games. And I think it's going to be a coming-out party for both of them, Pasquantino and Green. Don't shy away from them this week. Big stuff is ahead. Got to get Isaac Paredes in there. The Rays have good matchups themselves. 3 of them against the Orioles. And obviously, he's been doing a lot of damage of late. And especially at home. Like, Tropicana Field is not known for being a good place to hit, but his number's there. Like, he's been an exception to the rule. I like the Marlins matchups this week as well. And so that makes Garrett Cooper a pretty easy call. He's been hot lately. The Guardians are among the teams with 8 games, and I have both Josh Naylor and Franmil Reyes in here. Now, Naylor has been sitting out with, I'm trying to remember what it is, a day-to-day injury. So if he doesn't return over the weekend, obviously when I update this list Sunday, I'll have to remove him. But I wanted to have him in here because not only are the Guardians playing 8 games, but all of the pitchers on their schedule to face as of now are right-handers, and Naylor just obliterates right-handers. He nails them, you might even say. Let's see.
He doesn't josh around against them.
No, he doesn't. I'm going to put Luke Voigt on here too to take advantage of those 4 games at Coors Field.
All right, I like it. Josh Naylor currently dealing with a back injury, so hopefully returns over the weekend, and he nails those right-handed pitchers next week. Let's rapid fire. See how much we can get to the rest of Thursday's action in the next 5 to 10 minutes or so. What do we do with these pitchers? We mentioned the situation with Ronzi Contreras. 6 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts. He's 40% rostered. If you guys have him on your team, would you look to hold him? Maybe look to add him after this start? What do you think?
I mean, we just did him on the drop-o-meter on Sunday, and Chris and I both had him as a drop. I'm not sure, with 11 swinging strikes on 90 pitches, still very vulnerable to home runs and has the Pirates offense backing him. There's some upside there. I think 40% is probably appropriate, but in most of the leagues I play in, I don't have much interest in Contreras at this point.
Yeah, I think if you need the roster spot, he's droppable.
I will admit these next 4 pitchers are not great, but I'll rattle them off anyway. Jordan Lyles, 4 solid starts in a row. He went 6 innings, 1 run with 4 strikeouts up against the Angels. He's 13% rostered. Trevor Williams was amazing. He also pitched against a Jazz Chisholm-less Marlins lineup. 7 shutout, 2 hits, 7 strikeouts there. Matthew Liberatore, he only lasted 4 innings against the Braves, 4 shutout with 4 strikeouts, but his velocity was way up. Fastball velo, 1.3 miles per hour, slider up 3 miles per hour, curve up 2.5, changed his pitch mix. Just kind of interesting. And then Bo Brisky, he's turned in some solid starts, 6 1/3 shutout with 4 strikeouts at the White Sox. Chris, anything here? Bo Brisky, Liberatore, Trevor Williams, Jordan Lyles.
I know Liberatore's got some prospect pedigree, but I don't really think he's any good. So I would still stay away from him. I don't really have much interest in any of these guys. Like Trevor Williams is kind of average-ish. And so against good matchups, I think he can be useful. But
this was probably his last start with Scherzer back, and Chris Bassett had been out, but he's expected to be back Friday. So probably done. Probably it for Trevor Williams.
Liberatore, I'll just say, throw him on the scout team. Let's see where this goes because, I kind of like the pitch mix and the velo being up in this one. Pitching studs being studs. Justin Verlander has now gone 6+ innings in 13 of 16 starts this season. He went 6, gave up 2 runs, 8 strikeouts against the Royals. Dylan Cease, Scott mentioned earlier, 8 straight, allowing 1 earned run or fewer. There was a start in there with 6 unearned runs. He went 6, gave up 1 run, 8 strikeouts against the Tigers. Tony Gonsolin, back-to-back outings of 7+ innings after 0 in his first 14 starts. He went up against the Cubs, 7 innings, 2 runs, 3 strikeouts. And then pitching duel of the night, Joe Musgrove against Logan Webb. 7 shutout for Musgrove with 6 strikeouts. Logan Webb on the other side, 8 innings, 1 run, 2 strikeouts. Scott, a whole bunch of names here. What do you think? Webb, Musgrove, Gonsolin, Cease, Verlander.
I think the most notable thing, you already pointed it out, is Tony Gonsolin going 7 innings in back-to-back starts when only half his starts before then were even 6 innings. And so if he starts taking on an ace workload, it's harder to make the case against him being an actual ace given his other numbers.
It's worth noting he only threw 93 pitches in this one, and I think the previous start he didn't throw a ton of pitches.
Yeah, I feel like we're repeating the same conversation.
Yeah, I think that's what we talked about on Sunday when he had that start or whenever it was. Yeah.
All right, let's move over to some hitting leftovers. Jose Altuve hit his 17th home run. Yordan Alvarez went 1 for 4, hit his 26th. Rafael Devers, he looks healthy. Sat out yesterday, back, hamstring, no problem. double dong off of Garrett Cole, who he owns.
Cole had
absolutely owns
some great quotes about him. He was like, "Can he like mishit one ball? Like he just like the quote was like he never hits anything poorly. Can he just hit like one line drive at a guy?" It was a great quote.
They were bombs too. They were both 425 plus feet. It was not close. Like Devers is a monster. They came out just to discuss the at bat against Devers. They were probably like, take it easy, maybe pitch around a little bit. Boom. Next thing you know, 430-foot bomb. Guy's awesome. Josh Donaldson, back-to-back multi-hit games with a home run in each. Jonathan India, very welcome sight, had 4 hits across the doubleheader against the Pirates. Dansby Swanson went 1 for 4 with 2 steals. He's now up to a career-high 14 steals on the season. Eugenio Suarez went 2 for 3 with his 14th homer. Mookie Betts, a double dong, now up to 20 home runs on the season. The call to the bullpen for the Astros. Ryan Presley struck out 1 for his 18th save. For the Pirates, David Bednar picked up his 14th save. For the Yankees, Clay Holmes picked up his 16th save. For the Cardinals, Giovanni Gallegos entered in the 7th inning with a 1-run lead. He gave up a solo home run to Michael Harris. Ryan Helsley recorded 7 outs spanning the 8th and 10th innings. He gave up an unearned run, and then Packy Naughton eventually converted the save once the Cardinals took the lead in the 11th inning.
Did you see Ryan Helsley no longer has the hardest thrown ball in Major League Baseball this season? Jordan Hicks threw on 103.6 miles per hour today.
Jeez.
That's something to keep an eye on, because if he gets back into form, that could further complicate what's already been a very complicated situation.
Scott, are we done with Giovanni Gallegos? Like, if you were holding on to him in a deeper categories league, can you just drop him?
Yeah, I mean, if saves are the priority there, he could still be ratio help and with pretty good volume for those ratios. But I've moved him down quite a bit in my relief pitcher rankings.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of relief pitcher rankings, I'll tell you what, trying to rank Clay Holmes and Chapman right now is one of the hardest things to do, because we just don't really know what's going to go on. For the Tigers, Gregory Soto gave up a run but picked up his 17th save. For the Phillies, Sir Anthony Dominguez pitched a clean 9th for his 3rd save. He's 42% rostered if you're in need of saves. Jorge Lopez for the Orioles picked up his 15th. Daniel Bard for the Rockies picked up his 17th. And for the Dodgers, I just saw Craig Kimbrell entered with a 3-run lead, struck out the first 2 batters, gave up a single, an RBI double, a walk. Then he was pulled for Alex Vesia, who struck out the final batter, and so he picked up the save. It was not Craig Kimbrell, who has been dealing with a back injury. So something to watch there. To stream or not to stream for the weekend, we'll start with Friday. Tyler Wells versus the Angels. Aaron Savali at the Royals. Brady Singer versus the Guardians. JT Brubaker at the Brewers. Chad Kuhl at the Diamondbacks. Ross Stripling at the Mariners.
It's always so bad. I guess it's not surprising because I can't find any sleeper pitchers anymore.
Yeah,
I could see Kuhl and Stripling being okay.
Yeah. Chicken strip. Let's go. Fire them up at Seattle. Saturday, we've got Johnny Cueto versus the Tigers. Dean Kramer versus the Angels. Devin Smeltzer at the Rangers. Kyle Freeland at the Diamondbacks. Scott, it only gets better, my buddy.
No, it doesn't. I don't know. Maybe Johnny Cueto will come through for us again against the worst lineup in baseball. Maybe.
Sunday, we've got Nick Lodolo versus the Rays. All right, that's something. Zach Greinke versus the Guardians. Jose Quintana at the Brewers. Dane Dunning versus the Twins. Jake Odorizzi at the A's.
Is it an overreaction to say I like all 5 of these better than any of the ones from the previous 2 days?
Is it an overreaction? No, I don't think so. I mean, I think Stripling is probably better than a few of these, but that's probably the only one.
Realistically, the only guy I'd start from any of these 3 days is Lodolo. And even that, I'm not super eager to do. So that's where things stand for me.
All right. Fair enough. The week is over.
Odorizzi gets a win and a quality start at Oakland.
There you go. Bold prediction for Scott and Chris. I am Frank. Thank you all for listening and watching Fantasy Baseball today. We'll be back again on Monday. Bye-bye.